Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast, coming to you from BMC Engage in Las Vegas. I'm Kirsty Miguel, and I'm here with Charlie Betts.
Hello, Kirsty.
Carlos Casanova.
Kirsty.
And we're pleased to introduce a new face from Forrester Research, Elinor Klavens. Welcome, Elinor.
Thank you, and you pronounced it right as well.
Good.
Thank you.
So, Elinor, I guess it is sort of a little bit of groundbreaking for us. We're introducing a new analyst coming through Forrester. You got some great background. Obviously, they wouldn't put you up here and in front of all the clients. What are you going to be working on? I know you're working closely with Dave and Evelyn and all the great work that they've done over the years. So, how much of that credit can you start taking from them?
Well, I have been lucky enough to work with an incredibly gracious team who's allowing me to take way more credit than I deserve. And I've come to Forrester at a very exciting time. As Dave was talking about, it's a big pivot from the world which all of you have lived in for years of ITSM.
You're not dating us.
No.
No. Just making sure.
Small years. And I get to come in while things are really drastically changing.
Yeah.
So sort of like coming in at the end of the Cold War, where we have this switch from ITSM to what we call workforce enablement. And my background is much more a process improvement background. And so I love this bit about figuring out the people element, the behavioral element, and trying to get the most out of the wonderful, hardworking people you have in there already. And that's been the focus of this workforce enablement pivot, is to both help people do their jobs better and to help them be doing the things that their customers want and need.
Wow.
I know.
So you're trying to do a shift in attitude for people to focus in a different way?
Absolutely. So we've got a research report coming out soon, which I had the pleasure of working on with Dave and with Evelyn, called ITSM is Dead, Long Live Digital Workforce.
You may want to hide for a little while. It might not be your groundbreaking.
Really? It's not going to make me a lot of friends? Good to know, good to know. Dave's a swarthy guy, but he'll protect me. But
you may need a little bit of protection from a few people around the industry.
Bring Glenn back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's also a good one. It's not to say ITSM is dead. Throw out your ITSM solutions. It's to say what you've been doing with your ITSM solution is wrong, and you need to. For us to understand this pivot, we need to call it a death, but it is a shift and a new course. And as I'm sure you can reiterate, it's a very necessary one.
Oh no, definitely,
So I'm very curious, because I've developed some of my own opinions about where ITSM needs to go. What do you see as the gaps? I mean, what is it that needs to die so that the new reality can be born?
Good question. Now, what we're finding, and what I have the pleasure of, as I said, stepping in and seeing the end of a very long process, is some great shops that built themselves up with an ITIL mentality, which meant that they had a very structured, controlled process. And now they're saying, oh, we really want to do service strategy. We really want to do service transition. Once you get your shop under control, you can't keep moving forward in that linear way. You need to look at your control aspect, and then you need to look externally to your customers. So we see the need to weave these things together. And for example, your priorities might not be the same priorities as your customers. And what their pain is will not necessarily be your pain. So figuring out how to calibrate that and give them access to the services that they need in their daily life. For example, we see a huge rise in mobility. So that may not be your priority, but are your services designed so that your employees can access them on the go?
So where do you see ITIL actually fitting into this landscape now, I guess? It's probably what a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, after you said ITIL. Do we kill ITIL as well?
Absolutely not. We don't kill it, but we realize that it's not the whole picture. So we say, okay, this is one very important aspect, but it's not the whole story. And we realize the need to look at it and say, okay, I've got my incident problem change, that's fantastic. how do I understand my environment? How do I understand behavior? How do I drive change? How do I, for example, how do I leverage my predictive abilities within my environment to understand supply and demand and personas?
Yeah.
ITIL doesn't help
No,
you do
it doesn't.
those things.
It doesn't help with that. No.
So I mean, speaking on the predictive abilities, I mean, I think, the conference has really been around, that experience. And I think there's just so much that organizations have, so much information, so much data that they
Yes.
have. But yet I rarely ever see, them leveraging that into predicting. I know, it's Charlie, he's usually in on the weekend. He's usually doing this kind of stuff. As soon as he logs in, it's like, I should know. He does this every year.
Yeah.
He's in the finance area, whatever. So he's going to start accessing, the finance or the quarterly end systems or those sort of things. There might be things that he needs to, procure during that time, and it's already there. Without him having to, and he's probably sitting there like, oh, I got to do this again, and he's going to forget because he's going in on the weekend in his own time. So how do you see that? Happening, this experience, to give him a better experience when he doesn't want to be there on Saturday, but helping him, save that extra hour of going through the headaches of, oh, I forgot to ask for this.
Absolutely. We're seeing a couple of things which are enabling people to have more time in their days, possibly, to address that. So, one, seeing some good automation, which is freeing up some minds for planning in those areas, and two, we're seeing more individuals being hired into those service management offices to design those processes, to leverage those predictive capabilities. And the great thing is, while it's not there, everyone gets it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we say, every year it's a surprise when these summer interns show up. This shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah.
Summer is coming again next year.
That's right.
Yeah, happens every year about
Exactly.
this time.
Or do you have huge demand around Christmas? Do you have spikes in requests? But then also taking those predictive abilities further to monitor your environment as well, and gain better control of your licensing, and also some of the things which my colleagues look into more closely really resonate with our customers. As you say, they're just not there yet, but it's coming on the roadmap, which is what we hope to do.
Are you addressing the Agile movement at all in the upcoming research?
That is not my area, but I believe some of my colleagues are jumping all over it.
Yeah.
So, so I mentioned, we've talked about, at certain points about patterns, and I'm thinking about the predictiveness.
Yeah.
And I start looking at it from a mathematical, I'm an engineering background, I say, okay, the pattern is such, and what's happening now, and from a predictive nature, is opposite of that. Is it something else that's going on? Is it breaches? Is it something else? And it might be legitimate, because again, we always use financial systems because they're quarter, month end, type things. But even that has a pattern. Everything has a pattern. If you can start detecting patterns with the predictive nature of certain things, if it doesn't fit, that should start sounding alarms, because something's not right here. So, but I just don't see many companies at that maturity level to start capitalizing on that.
I agree, but what I think is really interesting is how far from that place people are, but also how quickly they get there. So that's why I say, no, you're right, we're not seeing as much of it as we would like to, but we're seeing really quick leaps and bounds from paper to all of a sudden, I've got an automated approval.
So more revolution than evolution?
Maybe, yeah. maybe that's exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it does always amaze me when you go into an organisation and they do get surprised by things that happen every year. Like flu season, every year. You're going to have a heap of your workforce is not going to be available, but for some reason, every year that's a surprise to them.
Yes.
And they don't cope with it. So those things that can be predicted really should be acted on.
Like projects right through the summer months in Europe are probably not going to be very productive.
No, because they go away for 6 weeks.
Exactly. And we're just jealous here in the US that they're away.
But what we find is on that question of predictive capabilities, it turns into an operational capability, which then impacts customers. And so once you're analyzing these sorts of trends, for example, in the city of Boston last week, I forgot this, that it's a major university move-in date. So Boston is swamped.
Right.
Now, I forgot this. What upset me is that so many businesses in Boston forgot this.
Yeah.
And while they may be getting this information from their customers, also from their own employees, they should have been getting, because they're getting increased volumes of tickets, increased requests, and those are the sorts of things which, when you get on top of it, will turn into a customer-facing revenue-growing capability.
Yeah.
I often think about meteorologists' weather reports. I think that's a good paradigm because, predicting, the caution I always have is that you can't be too predictive because there's random variability, there's random chance. And actually, if you look at how, good meteorologists operate, they look at multiple models and there's still some human interpretation of what, might happen, or we know every time that the students are going to move in, but then there might be additional, less predictable factors like, are they going to tear up the center of Boston again and put another,
We'll do it really quick. We'll do it really, really quick.
It will be, no one will
A couple
notice
of days,
a thing.
nobody will notice anything.
Eleanor, we'll have to wrap this up now. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And
Sort of a proxy welcome to Forrester.
Thank you very much. I feel
welcome.
very
And,
lucky to be welcomed into this
and I'm
community,
sure
so thank you.
I'm
Even though
sure
it's
we'll
going
get
to
a
die
chance to
soon.
chat again.
Yes, look forward to it.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you.